Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today, we have the Kershaw Launch 11. This is a new, fairly small little EDC automatic from Kershaw. It is made in the USA. You're looking at right around $100. And I do have to say, before we get started, thank you very much to Southern Edge Knife Works for getting one of these to me. So go to southernedgeknifeworks.com, use the code SDSEK at checkout. You get 15% off and free shipping, and they do have these in stock right now. So if you want to grab one, go ahead and check them out. For that price, you're getting CPM 154 steel, which is the powdered version of 154. This is an in-house Kershaw design, as you can see by that little Star Wars-esque mark. They put it on the handle instead of on the blade as they usually do, probably because there's not a whole lot of room on the blade. This is not a terribly large knife. You're looking at only a 2 3/4 inch blade length, so it is pretty small. But definitely a very good EDC size, and I gotta say, pretty cool knife and very cool looking, absolutely for sure. I don't think anybody can argue with the looks of this. I like that big pass-through design. I like the little touch of bronze on the pivot collar. It's kind of almost a faux integral, sort of. Faux integral, faux backspacer. I don't know exactly how to describe that. Aluminum handles, nice black coating on it. I like the look of this a whole lot. It is a very, very nice looking knife. Black wash. I like Kershaw's black wash. It looks really, really, really cool. A black stone wash, whatever I call it, black wash. I really like the look of it a whole lot. I think it's a very good looking knife. Let's do some specs and size comparisons before we get too much farther. As I said, not a very large knife. You can see I'm kind of zoomed in here. These are all 1/2 inch squares. We have an overall length of 6.75 inches, a blade length of 2.75 inches, blade thickness of 0.12 inches, handle thickness of 0.47 inches, and a weight of just 2.1 ounces. And they do get the golf clap because that's what they claim. And that's what it weighed when I checked it out. So I always do appreciate that. So let's go through some of our usuals. And then I'll compare it to some more smaller automatics. We have, first up, your Spyderco Paramilitary 2. We're going to have to scooch up here because I zoomed in, but some of the comparison knives are a bit larger. Your Spyderco PM2 and your Spyderco Para 3. So you can see it is much closer in length to the Para 3, but still even just a little bit smaller than that. We will go with your Benchmade full-size Griptilian and the mini Griptilian, which hates being on camera. May change the pocket clip out just for that reason. Pretty similar overall length to a mini grip. And lastly, we'll bring out a couple of autos. These are both Protex, other out-the-side automatics that it does actually compare pretty closely in size to. We have your Protec Newport and the Protec SBR. So yeah, kind of right between those, even though all three of them are pretty darn close together, honestly. So let's talk more about this knife in its individual bits. As far as the blade goes, the most important part of a knife, pretty good blade on this one. No complaints at all with CPM 154. A lot of automatics seem to prefer 154. I think I've said before that someone explained it to me once and I've forgotten it, and nobody has bothered to re-explain it to me again in the comments, but I think it's kind of impact resistant steel, so I think that's why a lot of them use it. I like 154 in both of its variants, CPM 154 or 154 CM. I don't really care, but CPM 154 is a little bit better because it's powdered, and I do like it a whole lot on this, and Kershaw has used it a lot on the entire Launch series. Obviously, this is the Launch 11. They've made a few of them. They kind of know what they're doing. But I really like the blade on this. They call it a clip point in some places. I don't know, I'd call it more of a modified sheep's foot, modified reverse Tonto thing. Who knows anymore? It's 2020. All the different blade shapes are bleeding together. But whatever they call it, it is screaming sharp out of the box. Kershaw, especially the USA made ones, always do an amazing job with that. It does slice extremely well. It's about 22 thousandths behind the edge. I wouldn't have mind seeing that a bit thinner, but it's not crazy thick or anything, and the blade stock is thin. It's a flat grind, but it's pretty high up. Slices pretty darn well, and it's got a pretty good tip on it, I do have to say. For a knife this small and blade stock that thin, Going to applaud it there. Good piercer, all those things you look for. Zero qualms with the blade whatsoever. Ergos are also actually pretty good for a knife this size. You can definitely feel this pocket clip like the entire length of it, but it's not a hot spot. The ramp isn't too extreme. You just kind of notice it's there. It's not really like anything that causes any issues. And depending on your grip, you might not notice it at all. Just on my hands, I can feel the whole length of it, but I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. My palms are putting a lot more pressure up here than they are down there. So having used this for some, fairly long-term cardboard cutting and stuff, it didn't really bother me at all. But I can get all 4 fingers on it. I have large size hands, skinny fingers, but a normal human size palm. And I can still get my whole hand on it, no problem. All 4 fingers, you can see in the palm, it's kind of ending just before the end of my palm, but there's nothing sharp back here to dig into. No real issues whatsoever. It does have a little jimping up here, but for my long thumbs, that does nothing. My thumbs come nowhere near that jimping. I would have rather seen it moved, up the blade a bit farther. Just do kind of the giant mouse sort of thing and skip it and just put it up here. I think that would have been a little bit better. But it's still a good, comfortable place to put your thumb. And if you really do need the jimping, you can just kind of slide back a bit and engage it. But for me, would have been a little bit better up there. But yeah, the little forward finger cutout works really well. So yeah, no real issues there to complain about ergonomically either. And as far as the carry goes, you saw the weight. It's wicked light. And it's wicked thin in the pocket as well. We have not a deep carry clip. I wouldn't have minded seeing a deep carry clip on this, but I kind of get why they didn't do it, because a lot of times on really small knives with deep carry clips, that loop over really digs in right here in the back of your palm, where this one doesn't. So I kind of understand why they didn't do that. And that's probably what happened with it. So there is a bit sticking out, but it's a bit to grab a hold of, and there's nothing, this is the only color combo it comes in. So it's not like it's a bright, ridiculous color sticking out or anything. Goes in the pocket very well, and obviously no flipper tab because it's an auto, so it's super easy to get your hand by. This is one of those knives that I always say, it's so lightweight and so easy to carry that you forget it's in your pocket, and it's probably going to go through the wash someday if you own one for a long time. So keep that in mind. But it should survive it pretty well. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but yeah, it takes up almost no room in the pocket. Definitely a really, really nice, I call lightweights now sub 2.5 ounces. I used to call it sub 3 ounces, but now a whole lot of stuff is sub 3 ounce. So I think a really true lightweight's like sub 2.5. I actually just did a video of my top 10 sub 2.5 ounce knives. This would have been in it if I'd have had it, but I didn't have it. These did sell out very quickly, and then it took me a hot minute to get another one. There's nothing wrong with this clip, just ye old Wranglers Mark II need to get replaced because they're shredding. So little bits come off. But no, pocket clip tension's really good. It carries excellently. And the action, it's pretty darn good, I do have to say. Kershaw launches have always impressed me, especially for the money. They fire extremely well. They fire extremely hard. No problems there. Maybe there's a bit of button creak, I would call it, on the button. Like, it's no button stick, but you hear a little, you can hear that kind of noise before it lets go. Noise. That's I wish I could put that on a t-shirt. But you do get a little bit of that. I don't know how I'd spell it, but it does work well. It is a knife, though, still. Like, you have to make sure you have your hand on this thing before you fire it. I actually handed it to my son the other day. He actually kind of wants one of these. And I handed it to him, and he went to go push the button. Well, make sure you got a hold of it, and he didn't, and it hit the deck. So you got to make sure you have your hand on it, because it will kick. And it could go twing, flying across the floor. Twing, another t-shirt idea. I'm just going to put t-shirt ideas right and left. It is right hand, left hand carry, by the way. But what is my overall conclusion on this? I mean, USA made for right around, that $100 mark. And it, again, getting back to the deployment, I mean, this is, and compared to a ProTech Newport, Newport makes a bit more noise, but this kicks just as hard. Can't really complain there. And again, right now it only comes in one option. A lot of launches, if they're successful, They do come out in other colorways and other things like that. I can totally see that happening with the Launch 11 because, like I said, the first run of them, the first launch, pun intended, went very, very quickly. It took me a hot minute to get in on the second run of them. And so, yeah, it's I'm really excited about it. I think you'll see it in more colors and stuff, but I really like this one. I think this is a great choice to launch it in. Okay, that pun was not intended. But really cool knife. Very impressed with it. And thanks again to Southern Edge Knife Works for getting one of these to me. They do have a few still in stock, so go to southernedgeknifeworks.com. Use the code SDSEK at checkout. Get 15% off and free shipping in the continental United States. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm definitely enjoying this knife. It has found a lot of pocket time, and I think it will continue to do so. It's just a cool little lightweight auto that is definitely big enough to still be considered a full-on EDC knife. Some of the launches are really tiny, and they don't feel like they are. You can use them every single day. This one, you definitely can. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.